Hello everyone, this is Defense Politics Asia, and this is the summary for the day of 741 for the 5th of March. And we're going to start off with Frontline Changes report. And the first Frontline Changes report is good. The first Frontline change is actually at Tonenke, at the Avdiivka Front. So there is a geolocation of Russian rocket bombardment on Ukrainian positions in the northern part of Tonenke. And with this bombardment, this confirmed that the Ukrainians actually have positions over in the northern part of Tonenke, invalidating Russian claims that they have captured the whole of Tonenke. So this actually confirms my suspicion that the Russians did not really have that much control or capture based on this thing. Of course, it may be a possibility that this video footage is belated, but tentatively it doesn't feel like it. So anyway, we will continue to monitor and see how this goes. As the Russians previously planted a flag over here, but the control of this northern part is going to be difficult because, yeah, I will talk more about it in the SITREP. Anyway, before I go too off track. And the next frontline change is over at Krasnohorivka, over in the Donetsk Front. So just now we were here, and this is Donetsk city, and the Krasnohorivka. The Russian reports continue to claim the Russians are attacking in the southern part of Krasnohorivka, and this time round they have taken this road junction that is moving across the railway bridge, and are taken furthermore positions over in the eastern part of this southern suburb. So if we zoom in a bit, you can see that there is some kind of bridge. I'm not sure if the bridge is still not operating or no, it's still intact. So the Russians could attack from that direction based on this new advancement from the Russian report. Just to clarify, this entire advance by the Russians is undocumented or unacknowledged by the Ukrainian side. Ukrainian mapping is still this blue one. They do not think that the Russians are even there at all. So so this is a parallel universe that you need to be aware of. And the next frontline change is over just south of it, over at Heorhiivka or Heorhiivka. Based on the latest Russian mapping, the Russian forces have expanded control and captured most of this northern part of Heorhiivka, and they managed to link up the north and the southern forces, as well as expanding control over the few tree lines over in the northern outskirts of Heorhiivka. So the Ukrainians definitely are still holding positions along all these tree lines. So no, it's still not over yet. The Ukrainians can still definitely fight back in this region here. But this is the frontline change according to the Russians. And the next frontline change is further south of this, over at Pobjeda or Pobjeda. The Russian forces have taken these two tree lines around here in the northern part of Pobjeda, and which means that they are expanding their control in this direction towards Heorhiivka. So this is the first indication of Russian expansion of control around Pobjeda since the announcement of the capture on the 21st or 22nd of February. It took a long time as the Ukrainians have put tremendous pressure on the Russian forces, especially coming from the south. So the Russians have not been able to push south just yet. So instead they push north, probably to straighten out the front line. And the next front line change is further south, is over at Novomykhailivka. So a geolocation of Russian attack in this tree line so confirmed that the Russians have basically taken control along this area here, so invalidating Ukrainian claims along this area here of Novomykhailivka. So that's all from the Novomykhailivka region. And the final frontline change is over at the Zaporizhzhia Front. So Zaporizhzhia city, over at the Heorhiivka sector, over in the eastern part of Robotyne. So sorry, a bit too fast. This Robotyne, on the eastern part, there is a geolocation of FPV drones attacking Russian forces forward positions over here, and this actually corroborates Russian claims. So which means that the Ukrainian claims are now invalidated, at least for this part. along these few tree lines. There's a few tree lines around here that is definitely under Russian control, because for the Russians to reach there, they will need all these tree lines. So tentatively, we are being a bit more conservative. So we're definitely going to hold the rest of the Ukrainian front lines as per what the Ukrainians report for now. But this part is now invalidated to be under Russian control. So that's all for the frontline changes report. Major things had happened over in the southern front, particularly over at the Crimean Bridge region. Russia lost yet another Navy ship. This time around is Project 22160, Sergei Krutov. It was sunk by Ukrainian surface drones, suicide drones. The ship was originally just damaged, and a tugboat was sent to actually rescue it. However, due to bureaucracy and the orders to tow the boat is very delayed, and then with further attacks coming towards it, eventually the ship sunk. So the ship sunk around this area here, and the Ukrainians suicide drones were attacking along this area here, and this puts a lot of questions, if you ask me, as to where the suicide drones actually come from, because this is a long way from home, to be honest, and I have my doubts as to they actually come from Odessa. Anyway, we'll talk more about it in the conclusions. We move on to the southern front. Over at the Kherson Front, there is still fighting reported over at certain beachhead or bridgehead, so probably Krinky. So this is reported by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry. There is a Ukrainian MiG-29 shot down over Lyubomyrivka. So this is a rather rare instances of Ukrainian aircraft getting shot down after a whole series of Russian aircraft getting shot down. So that's all for the Kherson Front. We move into the Zaporizhzhia Front. So Zaporizhzhia City, and this is the Zaporizhzhia Front. At the Zaporizhzhia Front, there is fighting being reported over at Robotyne. Ukrainian forces are reportedly attacking. Russians are also reportedly attacking. So not sure who is exactly attacking. And the Russians are also conducting some fire mission against Tomashka. So that's all from this region here in terms of the actions. Based on the geolocations that over here, this invalidated the Ukrainian claims that the front line is still around here. At least this area here is now under Russian control. This is reported as per the frontline changes report. Ukrainian forces are attacking within Robotyne, but there's not much details other than the previous SITREP report from Ryba. But the Russians are also attacking. We are not sure exactly what is the situation right now. So we will definitely have to wait and see and wait for more information to come out from this area here. And I think, and then further away over at the Heorhiivka sector, there is Russian attacks being reported over at Malinivka as well as towards Heorhiivka. And the one at Malinivka is significant because this is reported by both Russian and Ukrainian defense ministries. So both actually reported this attack over at Malinivka. So we are definitely going to monitor and see why this is becoming something quite serious, because when you have both sides corroborating means that the fighting here is definitely legitimate. It's not just probing. So the Russians claim they are attacking Malinivka. They are inflicting losses, so-called, on the Ukrainian forces. The Ukrainians say that the Russians conducted attack. So we will definitely just wait and see how this progress. So in the strategic picture, it looks something like this: fighting towards Malinivka, towards Heorhiivka, Tomashka, and Robotyne, Ukrainians counterattack. So this looks like this is how it looks like. And that's all from the Zaporizhzhia Front. We move into the Donetsk Front. So at the Donetsk Front, the Russian forces are attacking Prashestivka towards Vodian. Fighting reported at Novomykhailivka, at the Pobjeda region, Heorhiivka, and south of Krasnohorivka. The Russians are on the initiative right now. There's nothing over the Velika Novosilka sector. And we will definitely have to continue to wait and see, what are all these things over here. What is it really happening? Over at the Novomykhailivka region, Russian forces continue to not make much movement within the settlement itself. Instead, they are spending their time expanding from the outskirts, probably trying to head towards this area here, and or at least cut into the rear to prevent resupply and reinforcement, forcing a Ukrainian withdrawal towards Paraskovievka. That is a possibility. So we'll wait and see how this progress. And over the Pobjeda region, the Ukrainian forces have put a lot of pressure since the Russians captured Pobjeda, and the Russian forces have not been able to push out. They have tried multiple times heading towards the west and southwest, but have not been successful. So instead, the Russians did the most practical thing. They attacked towards the north and trying to clean up the front line, straightening it up. So if you zoom out a bit, this will allow the Russian forces to straighten the line all along the Heorhiivka all the way down to Pobjeda, and at least that will provide the Russian forces a good hammer, to hit in this direction. So this is what they are trying to do right now, probably, and not sure how strong is the Ukrainian defenses south of Heorhiivka. We will continue to wait and see how this progress. And further up north, the Russian forces are also continuing to make their offensive in the south of Krasnohorivka, according to the Russian sources, and expanding control in the northern part of Heorhiivka. And they also linked up the forces on the north and the southern side. So the Russians are pushing in this direction. They are also pushing in the northern shore, and now they have managed to link up the two. So this will allow the Russian forces to operate even more smoothly, I would say, in this area here. So we will continue to wait and see how this progresses. And the Krasnohorivka situation, while the reports from the Russian side continue to report that they are storming the settlement, this is entirely not corroborated by the Ukrainian side. They have mentioned nothing. The front line remains to be really far away from the city. So we will continue to wait and see how this actually develops. This parallel universe is very unusual. Over at the Avdiivka Front, so this Avdiivka city, at the Avdiivka Front, the Russian forces continue their offensive, with fighting reported at Badaichi, towards Semenivka, Olivka, Pervomaisky, as well as Nevelsky. Ukrainian forces attack at Pervomaisky, Tonenke, Olivka, Badaichi. So this is the current strategic situation. The Russian claims of the capture is looking worse and worse, with the latest geolocation of Ukrainian forces getting hit by Russian multiple launch rocket systems over in the northern part of Tonenke, confirming that the Russians definitely did not have full control of Tonenke. So this is now getting invalidated, and I'm very unhappy with Ryba, for putting out wrong information in terms of this. So definitely the Olivka situation is probably similar, that the Russians did not really have this northwestern part of Olivka. And the Russians also, the Ukrainians reported fighting near Semenivka. So I wonder if the Russians actually made some progress in this area here towards Semenivka. And so Badaichi also, they are still being contested. So definitely that's the situation is like this. And I saw some comments, particularly people are very triggered when I say that the Ukrainians stabilized the line. So what does stabilize the line mean? You have to understand, prior to me reporting that the Ukrainians stabilized the line, what was happening and what was being reported. The Ukrainians were being routed in multiple locations, in Robotyne, in Avdiivka Front. They are all being routed. So they are all, and also at Ivaniske in the Bakhmut Front, they are all getting pushed back very quickly. And the fact that since my report, the Ukrainians have basically held the line more or less the same place, even they are being pushed back, the defenses have basically reorganized and able to hold the line and stop getting routed. That is what I mean by stabilize the line. So, stop coping so much. is bad for health, really bad for health. So that's all for the Avdiivka front. We move on over the New York front. The fighting, instead of being in this New York region, and Pobjeda region, is now moving northward, with fighting reported at Pivnishny as well as Sumy. So previously the fighting was at Pivnishny and New York. So the Ukrainians are definitely trying to harass the Russian forces along the New York front. We will continue to monitor and see how this progress. Reports coming out from the Russian Defense Ministry. And over at the Bakhmut front. So this is Bakhmut city and this is Bakhmut front. In the southern flank of the Bakhmut front, Russian forces are pushing out of Krasnohorivka, and particularly in the direction of Bilohora. Information coming from the Ukrainian Defense Ministry reported they actually name dropped Bilohora, and the Russians actually only mentioned Krasnohorivka, which means that the Russians are actually pushing. Whoops, I forgot to press. Pushing in the direction of Bilohora from Krasnohorivka, and the Ukrainians are counterattacking over at Klishchiivka. And we do not have much details about this situation. The Russians are not reported to be attacking at Avdiivka and Klishchiivka as per tradition. So we will continue to wait and see how this progress. I think previously they did mention about Avdiivka as well. Russian Defense Ministry on the 25th talked about Avdiivka. So the Russians definitely have some ambition about pushing, in this area here. So we will definitely have to continue to monitor and see how this goes. Like I mentioned before, I think about the Avdiivka situation, this is a weak spot. So the Russians may want to try harder. Over at the northern flank, there's no fighting being reported at Bodanivka. The fighting is only being reported at Ivanivsky. However, there is no updates regarding the Battle of Ivanivsky. Mapping wise remains the same. Both sides basically claim more or less half of Ivanivsky is under Russian control right now. So that's all for the Bakhmut front. We move on to the Siversk Front. So this is Siversk city. At the Siversk Front, Russian forces is being reported to be attacking at Heorhiivka as well as Verkhovny. Verkhovny is actually being mentioned by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry in the morning report, whereas Heorhiivka is reported by the Russian Defense Ministry. So we will continue to monitor and see how this progress. I'm very interested in terms of Verkhovny because this can push directly into Siversk and causing massive strategic division conundrums for the Ukrainians if the Russians manage to push through the Verkhovny. But tentatively, Verkhovny from the past 2 years had always been a pretty strong position. So for the Ukrainians, so I don't think there's any threat right now. And we move on to the Kreminna Front. Kreminna city, and at the Kreminna Front, the usual continues with the fighting basically over at Terny and Yampolivka only. The Russian forces are attacking towards Terny and Yampolivka, and that's all we know right now. Information coming from the Russian Defense Ministry about both of these attacks. So we will continue to wait and see how this goes. And further up north, there's nothing over at Zaporizhzhia Front, and we move into the Kupyansk Front. So this is Kupyansk city, and this is the Kupyansk Front. At the Kupyansk Front, the fighting reported at Avdiivka is no longer being reported. There's nothing happening over here anymore, according to the reports. The fighting is now primarily only at Sinkivka, with the sole report coming from the Russian Defense Ministry talking about them repelling Ukrainian forces. So I put this is the wrong color. Yeah, it should be blue. Yeah, only repelling. So the Ukrainians are trying to push the Russians at Sinkivka, and the Russians managed to hold the line, and that's about it over at the Kupyansk Front. And that's all from the Kupyansk Front. There is no report. There is one report. This actually, I believe I may have missed in the last SITREP. There is fighting reported at Chuhunivka. Chuhunivka is actually this border town or village next to Russia in the Kharkiv region, and this is very interesting because this is actually dropped by the Russian Defense Ministry. They mentioned Chugunovka, which is Chuhunivka in the Ukrainian. So it's not sure what was this about. So no, I'm not sure why I missed it. So anyway, that's it. This is the summary for the day of 741 for the 5th of March. And let's do some conclusions. So just some opinions of about the situation over the past 24 hours. The vessel being sunk continue to be a big problem for the Russian Navy. They still have not found a best way to deal with the drones, the surface drones, the suicide drones. And I think I wonder if it has something to do with pride, because if you look at World War One warships, World War One ships, those dreadnoughts and whatnot, they actually have cope cage, just like the Russian the current modern tanks in the front line. They actually have this wiring, netting, and fencing or whatever to prevent drone strikes. During those days, they actually have the big version of it, the same cage, but to prevent torpedo strikes. So this kind of technology actually existed before, and it's definitely usable and works. It works. So, but no, we haven't seen any cope cages on ships just yet in the modern age, particularly over in the Black Sea. I feel that the Russians should invest in it, or unless they are so confident about their machine gunners that they actually got a few ships sunk already. So they shouldn't be so confident about their machine gunners. And basically one ship, how many machine guns do you have? Like 2? So 4 if you're a very big ship, and then the Ukrainians send 6 drones at you at the same time. And then it's not like your machine gunners are going to be so accurate. So this is, yeah, the Russians need to find a better solution to deal with it. And there is one report I actually missed, is actually the destruction of the HIMARS. And this time around, this is the clearest image ever of a HIMARS undoubtedly getting destroyed by a Russian missile strike. So this I have already posted the video over in the DPA Telegram channel. You can actually go and check it out, the video footage. Or you can actually go to the DPA archive. I also posted this video, and there is almost no doubt that this is actually a HIMARS, because upon getting hit, some of these missiles or rockets on the HIMARS actually went haywire. It actually flew out. So this is the first ever firm confirmation of a Russian strike successfully hitting a HIMARS. Before that, there was just reports and really vague videos, super blurry videos that no one can really confirm. So this is the first of its kind. So this comes after various confirmed photos and videos of Abrams tanks getting destroyed. So the entire Western image of equipment that is superior, almost invincible, in some people's mind, is now gone. It's definitely not invincible, but credit is where credit is due. The HIMARS is really hard to hunt. The Russians really find it really hard to hunt down this HIMARS. So I wonder if the Ukrainians have the same problem with Russian missile launchers as well. The Russians have a lot of missile launchers, and they have been used quite a number of times. And of course, we also do rarely see a Russian tornado get destroyed, a Russian smirk launcher get destroyed. Very rare as well. So yeah. So it is a surprise to me. Like 20-30 years ago, I was thinking about why would these vehicles still be relevant in the sense. In my young mind, I thought that technology is so advanced. Is like it's so easy to hunt, right? You have planes, you fly, and apparently, I was so wrong. So that's a very interesting, thing to note, that I believe that even in the nuclear war in World War III, yeah, all these mobile launchers and mobile missiles and everything seems to be the key to victory, or at least to continue to keep up some kind of a attack on your enemy, even in the doomsday scenario, because it's so hard to hunt. So it's only through this Ukraine war you really see how difficult it is. So yeah, despite that they seem to be a rather large vehicle. And The situation at Robotyne continues to be a mystery, but this geolocation really knows put the Ukrainian claims into a lot of dubs. But of course, we do have the similar flip side over at the Avdiivka Front, where the Russian claims are all messed up. And the over at Heorhiivka sector, I think the Melnivka situation is very interesting, with both defense ministries talk about it. I would definitely something to take a look at, but I don't think this is something serious. It's just interesting that both defense ministry mentioned Melnivka. And over at the Donetsk front, all these things I believe coming along the Pobjeda line, it's just going to be probing. I don't think the focus is there. I think the Russians are now focusing still along the Marinka sector. Definitely they are trying to link up over here, and probably attack into the rear positions. So the Russians pushing out from Pobjeda seems to be the only way they can go. So I believe the Russians will also push in this direction to link up this area here. The Krasnohorivka situation continues to be very dubious because only the Russians are talking about it. Ukrainians have not acknowledged it at all. It's really unusual. We will definitely have to wait and see this Krasnohorivka. And in terms of Novomykhailivka, yeah, like I mentioned in the SITREP, I believe the Russians are going to make this push into the rear position. And I think this makes a lot of sense. And especially if you push through, there's already a pond over here. So this is pond around here. So there is not a lot of grounds that the Russians need to capture in order to put the entire Novomykhailivka into some kind of operational encirclement. So I think this makes sense. And this geolocation does shows the possibility of that. Avdiivka Front. Avdiivka Front, as I mentioned during the SITREP, stabilized line means they are not getting routed anymore. No, so don't hope so much. Like I said, it's really bad for health. The Ukrainians indeed is holding the lines, and geolocations are showing that the Russians indeed did not capture all these settlements. And things are looking worse and worse, for the Russians. I mean, for Ukrainians as well, but as in the Russians are really losing this window of opportunity, and I think is effectively lost by now, which means that everything from the battles from now on, over at Badaichi, Semenivka, Olivka, Tonenke, is just gonna be a grind from now on, because the window of opportunity to really pounce on their success, on these routed Ukrainian forces, to chase them down, force them into very uncomfortable positions, to push them out of possible better defensive positions, is gone. It's just entirely gone. So instead, what we do now have is the Ukrainians managed to actually re-establish this so-called first line or second line of defense after the fall of Avdiivka city, and I think the Ukrainians may actually succeed in able to hold this position. But of course, there is rumors, or just people's opinion, I guess, that the Ukrainians are throwing whatever they have at this front line, which is why there is this result. But these are the best that there is left. And if this is all destroyed, then they might have nothing after that. But that is just rumors, so don't bet on it. And I think there's nothing else to talk about because there's no really change in this area here. And yeah, the rest I think I more or less have covered in the SITREP. So that's it. This is the conclusions. And thank you for watching. Do press the like button, subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next update.